Dad, my fiancée does not want her there. Those 6 words destroyed 30 years of my life in less than 10 seconds. My son, Stephen, was standing in front of me on the terrace of my house, hands in his pockets, with a look that was no longer that of the boy I had raised. It was the look of a stranger who had just told me that my wife, the woman who had cared for him since he was 8 years old, was not welcome at his wedding. "What did you say?" I asked, even though I had heard him perfectly. "You heard me, Dad. Courtney says my stepmother always causes drama. She says she makes everything uncomfortable at family gatherings, and she prefers that she does not go." I felt the air escape my lungs, not out of surprise, but out of contained rage. Rage from years of swallowing comments, of ignoring slights, of pretending everything was fine when it clearly was not. "Your stepmother?" I repeated, savoring the poison of that word. "Is that what you call Pamela now?" Stephen shrugged. "Is that it? She is not my mom. She never was." There it was, the naked truth, no filters. Without that veneer of politeness we had maintained for so many years at Sunday dinners, at forced Christmases, at tense birthdays where we all pretended to be a family. "Understood," I said. "Just that, nothing else." My voice came out so calm that even I was surprised. Stephen blinked, confused. I think he expected screaming. He expected me to beg, to plead, to try to convince him. But I was not going to do that. Not anymore. "Understood. Is that all?" he asked. "That is all," I confirmed, taking a sip of my whiskey. "You can go." He stood there a few seconds longer, as if waiting for something. Then he turned around and left. I heard his truck start in the driveway and drive away down the street. I remained alone on the terrace, watching the sunset over the city. From up here in the hills, everything looked so small, so insignificant. I thought about Pamela inside, in the living room, not knowing yet what had just happened. I thought about how I was going to tell her. I thought about how her heart was going to break once again. And then I picked up my phone. "Allow me to tell you who I am. My name is Edward Miller. I am 63 years old. I own an import and export company that I founded 35 years ago with a loan of $5,000 and a dream that everyone called impossible. Today, that company is worth nearly $200 million. I have properties in Chicago, Miami, and San Diego. I drive a Mercedes S-Class. I live in a 4-story house overlooking the entire city. But none of that matters when your own son spits in your face. I had my first marriage with Ellen, Stephen's mother. It was a good marriage at the beginning. She was beautiful, intelligent, ambitious. We married young when I was just starting out. Stephen was born 2 years later. I worked 16 hours a day building my business. Ellen stayed home taking care of the boy, but over time she began to resent me. She said I loved my work more than my family. Maybe she was right. We divorced when Stephen was 7 years old. It was civilized. No screaming, no drama. Ellen kept a house in the Gold Coast and a generous alimony. I kept shared custody. Stephen spent weekends with me. I met Pamela 2 years later. She worked as a human resources manager at one of the companies I did business with. She was different from Ellen, calmer, more genuine. She did not care about my money. In fact, it made her a little uncomfortable. We fell in love slowly, without rushing. We married when Stephen was 9 years old. Pamela tried to be a good stepmother. She tried with all her heart. She made him breakfast when he came on weekends. She took him to his soccer games. She helped him with homework. But Stephen never accepted her. Ellen made sure of that. My ex-wife put poison in his head from the beginning. She told him Pamela had taken me away from him, that it was her fault we had divorced, even though that was a lie. She told him Pamela only wanted my money, that she was an opportunist, a climber, and Stephen believed her, because children always believe their mothers. Over the years, the resentment grew. Stephen became cold with Pamela. He ignored her at meals. He answered her with monosyllables. If she asked how school went, he would grunt fine and lock himself in his room. If she tried to give him advice, he would look at her with contempt and say, "You are not my mom." I would scold him. I told him to respect Pamela, that she had done nothing wrong to him. But I only succeeded in making Stephen angry with me too. Ellen consoled him. She told him I had changed, that I was no longer the same dad as before, that she was the only one who really loved him. That is how the years passed. Stephen graduated from prep school. He entered university. He studied business administration, of course. I paid for everything. Tuition, the apartment, the car, trips with his friends. Everything. When he graduated, I gave him a position in my company. Not just any position. I made him director of operations. I gave him a salary of $25,000 a month. I bought him a BMW. I introduced him to all my contacts. I opened all the doors. And you know what? He never thanked me. Not once. But I justified it. I told myself he was young, that he would mature, that someday he would understand everything I had done for him. Then he met Courtney. Courtney appeared in our lives 2 years ago. She is the daughter of a family from Texas. Her father owns a chain of car dealerships. People with money, but not as much as us. Courtney is pretty. I will not deny it. Blonde, tall, with that Instagram influencer style. But from the first moment I knew there was something about her I did not like. It was the way she looked at our house. The way she touched things, as if evaluating their price. The way she talked about people who have no class, and the importance of surrounding oneself with the right people. Pamela noticed it immediately. One night, after Stephen and Courtney left a dinner at our house, she told me, "That girl does not love him. She loves what you have. You are being too hard," I replied, although deep down I knew she was right. "Edward, I have been with you 22 years. I know how to recognize fake people. And that girl is fake to the bone." But Stephen was blinded. Courtney had him completely manipulated. Within 6 months, they were living together. Within a year, Stephen told me they were getting married. "I need you to help me with the wedding, Dad," he said. "I want something big, something that impresses." Courtney deserves the best. Of course he asked me for money. He always asked me for money. It did not surprise me anymore. "How much do you need?" I asked. $150,000, maybe $200,000. "We want to do it in Napa Valley, at that new place that is trendy. With 300 guests, $200,000 for a wedding, for a son who had never thanked me for anything, for a son who treated my wife as if she were invisible." But I said yes, because that is what fathers do, right? We give everything without expecting anything in return. It is our job, our curse. Pamela said nothing when I told her. She just nodded and kept reading her book. But I saw the pain in her eyes, the exhaustion, the years of rejection accumulating like stones in her chest. The wedding was planned for 6 weeks from now. We had already paid the deposit for the venue. We had already hired the event planner. We had already ordered the invitations. And then, this afternoon, Stephen came to tell me that Pamela was not invited. After Stephen left, I stayed on the terrace for an hour. Maybe more. The sky darkened. The city lights turned on like earthly stars. I felt a strange weight in my chest. It was not sadness. It was not even anger. It was clarity, a cold and sharp clarity. For 30 years I had carried the guilt of my divorce. I had blamed myself for working too much, for not being present, for not being the perfect father Ellen wanted me to be. I had tried to compensate by giving Stephen everything, everything he asked for, everything he needed, and still it was never enough. Because Ellen had created a monster. She had raised him to believe the world owed him something, that I owed him something, that he could treat me however he wanted and I would always be there with my wallet open and my head down. But there was one person who did not deserve any of this, a person who had been patient, kind, generous for 22 years while receiving nothing but contempt in return. Pamela. I went inside the house. She was in the living room reading a novel under the light of a lamp. She looked up when she heard me enter. "Did Stephen leave already?" she asked. "Yes," I replied. "Is everything okay?" I sat beside her. I took her hand. I felt how it trembled a little, as if she already knew what was coming. "Stephen came to tell me that you are not invited to the wedding." I said it without beating around the bush. I saw how her face fell, how she tried to maintain composure, how she blinked fast to hold back tears. "I understand," she said with a broken voice. "It is his day. It is his decision." "No," I said. "It is not okay and I am not going to allow it. Edward, I do not want to cause problems. You have never caused problems, I interrupted her. You have been the only one who has kept this family together, the only one who has been loyal, the only one who has been real. Pamela closed her eyes. A tear escaped down her cheek. What are you going to do? She whispered. I took out my phone. The right thing. I dialed the number of my lawyer, Henry Vance, the best corporate lawyer in Chicago, the man who had structured all my businesses for the last 20 years, a man who knew exactly how money and power worked. He answered on the second ring. Edward, what happened? Henry, I need you to come to my house first thing tomorrow morning. We are going to make some changes. What kind of changes? Changes to my will, changes to the company structure, changes to everything. There was a pause. Are you sure? I have never been more sure of anything in my life. I will be there at 8 in the morning. I hung up. Pamela was looking at me with wide eyes. What are you going to do? She repeated. I am going to teach our son what disrespect costs, I replied, and I am going to make sure he never treats you like that again. I said nothing else that night. It was not necessary. Pamela went to sleep, still processing what had happened. I stayed awake in my study, looking at my company documents. The stocks, the assets, the properties, everything I had built with my own hands, everything I once thought I would leave to my son. And then I started to plan. At 11 at night, I received a message from Stephen. Dad, I know you are upset, but I hope you understand. It is my wedding, my decision. See you soon. I did not respond. At midnight, Courtney sent me a WhatsApp message. Hi, Edward. I hope there are no misunderstandings. Stephen and I just want it to be a perfect day. I hope you understand. I did not respond to that either. At 1 in the morning, Ellen called me. I let it ring until it went to voicemail. Then I listened to her message. Edward, Stephen told me what happened. I cannot believe you are making this more difficult. It is his wedding. Why do you always have to make everything about you and that woman? I deleted the message. At 2 in the morning, I made my final decision. I opened my computer, logged into my online banking, and with 3 clicks, I canceled the transfer of $150,000 that I was going to send Stephen for the wedding. Then I sent an email to the event planner, the owner of the venue in Napa Valley, the florist, the DJ, and all the vendors. I am informing you that I will no longer be responsible for the payments for Stephen Miller's wedding. Any additional charges must be covered directly by him. Thank you. And finally, I wrote a message. Just one. Brief. Definitive. I sent it to Stephen at 2:30 in the morning. You are right. It is your wedding. Your decision. And it is also my decision not to pay for it. Good luck with everything. I turned off my phone and went to sleep. 2 hours later, when I turned it on again, I had 22 missed calls, and it was just starting. The calls did not stop all morning. When I went down to breakfast at 7, my phone looked like a bomb about to explode. 22 missed calls had turned into 43. WhatsApp messages, text messages, emails, Stephen, Courtney, Ellen, even Courtney's mother from Texas. I ignored everything. Pamela was in the kitchen, making coffee. She looked at me with a mixture of worry and something else, something I had not seen in her eyes in a long time. Hope, did you sleep well? She asked. Like a baby, I replied, pouring myself an orange juice. Edward, your phone has not stopped ringing. I know. Are you not going to answer? No. She sat in front of me. Her hands trembled slightly around her coffee cup. What exactly did you do? I told her everything. The call to Henry, the cancellation of the transfer, the emails to the vendors, the final message to Stephen. Pamela remained silent for a long moment. Then, to my surprise, she smiled. It was a small smile, almost imperceptible, but it was there. 22 years, she whispered. 22 years I waited for this moment. The moment you defended me, the moment you defended yourself, she replied. Because this is not just for me, Edward. It is for you, for your dignity, for everything you have allowed for years. She was right. This was bigger than a wedding. It was bigger than a rejected invitation. It was the breaking point of 3 decades of manipulation, of emotional blackmail, of a relationship built on guilt and money. At 8 o'clock sharp, the doorbell rang. It was Henry, My lawyer entered with his leather briefcase and that serious expression only expensive lawyers know how to wear. We sat in my study. Pamela excused herself to let us talk, but I asked her to stay. "This involves you too," I told her. "You deserve to be here." Henry took out his laptop and several documents. "Very well, Edward. Tell me exactly what you want to do." For the next hour, I explained everything. Not just the wedding. Everything. The years of disrespect, Ellen's manipulations, Stephen's attitude, his sense of entitlement over my money, the constant contempt towards Pamela. "I want to make structural changes," I said. "Big changes." "How big?" "I want Stephen to understand that the money he despises so much, the money he believes is his by right, can disappear in an instant." Henry nodded slowly. "I understand. Let us go by parts. First, your current will. At this moment, Stephen is the main beneficiary of everything, 70% of your assets. Pamela has 30%. I want to change it," I said. "I want Pamela to have 50%. And Stephen, the other 50%. But with conditions." "What kind of conditions?" I leaned back in my chair. I had thought about this all night. First condition: he can only receive his inheritance if Pamela agrees. She will have complete veto power. Pamela looked at me surprised. "Edward, no." "Second condition," I continued: he cannot sell, transfer, or liquidate any company asset during the first 10 years, and any major decision must have the approval of a board that I will form, of which Pamela will be president. Henry was typing quickly on his laptop. Third condition: if at any moment he treats Pamela with disrespect, if he defames her, if he tries to manipulate or pressure her, he automatically loses his share. Everything goes to Pamela, and she decides what to do with it. That is very strong, Henry said. Very strong. But it is legal, and it will definitely send a message. That is precisely the point. Anything else? Yes, his position in the company. I want to remove him as director of operations. Pamela inhaled sharply. Edward? Not permanently, I clarified. I just want him to understand that that position is not a gift. It is a job, and jobs can be lost. Do you want to fire him? Henry asked. No. I want to demote him. Let him start from the bottom. Let him learn what it means to really work, not just walk around the office with a title he did not earn. That could generate legal problems. If he claims it is wrongful termination, it is not. I can restructure my company however I want. I can create new positions. I can move people. I am the owner. Henry smiled. It was that smile he wore when he knew he had a solid case. You are right, but I need everything in writing. I need the motives to be clear, and I need you to be prepared for the consequences. What consequences? Stephen is going to be furious. Ellen is going to try to sue you. And Courtney, well, I have a feeling that when she sees the money is not flowing so easily anymore, things are going to get interesting. Let them get interesting, I said. I am tired of living in a circus where I am the only one paying for the tickets. We worked on the documents for 3 hours. Henry was meticulous. Every word, every clause, every condition was perfectly drafted. When we finished, I had in front of me a new will and a series of corporate documents that completely changed the structure of my company. I need you to sign here, here, and here, Henry said, pointing to the lines. And Pamela also needs to sign as witness and beneficiary. I signed without hesitation. Pamela signed with a trembling hand. Ready, Henry said, putting everything in his briefcase. From this moment, these documents are legal and binding. When do you want to implement the changes in the company? On Monday, I replied. I want Stephen to have the weekend to think about what he did. Let him enjoy his panic. Let him feel what it feels like when the floor opens up beneath your feet. Henry stood up. Edward, one last thing. Are you completely sure about this? Because once Stephen knows what you have done, there is no turning back. The relationship will change forever. It already changed, I replied. It changed when he disrespected me. It changed when he humiliated Pamela. It changed when he decided that my money was his by right, but my wife did not even deserve a place at his wedding. Understood, Henry said. I will call you early Monday. When he left, Pamela and I remained alone in the study. She looked at me as if she did not know me. Who are you? She asked, almost whispering. I am the man I should have been 20 years ago, I replied. She came closer and hugged me. I felt her trembling. I do not know if it was fear, relief, or both. We stayed like that for several minutes, in silence, while outside my phone kept exploding with calls I did not plan to answer. Saturday dawned with a storm. Not literal. Outside the sky was clear, but on my phone there was a Category 5 hurricane. 87 missed calls, 122 WhatsApp messages, 34 emails. I decided to read them during breakfast. Not all of them. The most interesting ones. Stephen, 3:47 a.m. Dad, what the hell did you do? The venue guy called me saying you canceled everything. Is this a joke? Stephen, 4:15 a.m. Answer the damn phone. Stephen, 5:02 a.m. This is ridiculous. We are family. You cannot do this to me. Courtney, 6:30 a.m. Edward, I think there is a misunderstanding. Please call me. We can fix this like adults. Ellen, 7:15 a.m. Edward Miller, if you think you can manipulate our son with your money, you are very wrong. You always knew how to play dirty. Stephen, 8 a.m. Dad, please, we need to talk. The wedding is in 6 weeks. We already signed contracts. We already sent invitations. You cannot destroy this. Ah, there it was. The key word. Destroy. I was destroying something. After 30 years of building, of giving, of sacrificing, of swallowing humiliations, it turns out I was the destroyer. I showed the messages to Pamela. She read them in silence, her expression becoming harder with each one. Are you going to respond? She asked. Not yet. What are you waiting for? I am waiting for the panic to turn into desperation. Panic makes you angry. Desperation makes you think. Pamela smiled. That smile was still there. That smile that had been hidden for 22 years. You are cruel, she said. No, I replied. I am just... Cruelty is disinviting a woman from a wedding she helped pay for. Justice is withdrawing the money when they do not value you. At 10 in the morning, the doorbell rang. Pamela looked at me alarmed. Do you think it is? Probably. I went to open it myself. It was indeed Stephen, but he did not come alone. Courtney was by his side, with those designer sunglasses and that dress that probably cost more than the monthly salary of an average family. Dad, Stephen said. His voice was tense, controlled, but I could see the fury barely contained in his eyes. We need to talk. I have nothing to talk about with you, I replied. Please, he exploded. You cannot do this. The wedding is in 6 weeks. You already said that. 3 times by text. Once more in person. And my answer remains the same. It is not my problem. Courtney took off her glasses. She had red eyes. She had been crying, or at least that is what she wanted me to believe. Edward, please, she said with a soft voice, almost childish. I know we made a mistake. I know we hurt Pamela's feelings, but we can fix it. We can invite her. We can. You can what? I interrupted her. Can you pretend you respect her? Can you treat her well for a day just to keep ignoring her afterwards? No thanks. We already saw that movie. This is not fair, Stephen said. You are using your money as a weapon. My money, I repeated. How interesting that you say it like that. My money, not our money, not the family money. My money. At least there we agree. You know what I mean. Yes, I know perfectly well what you mean. You mean that my money should be available to you when you need it, but my wife does not deserve a little basic respect. You mean you can treat me like your personal ATM, but not like your father. Stephen clenched his fists. For a moment, I thought he was going to hit me. Part of me almost wished he would. It would have been more honest than everything else. Do not be dramatic, he finally said. Dramatic, I laughed without humor. Son, you have not seen drama yet. This is just beginning. Courtney put a hand on Stephen's arm. Babe, maybe we should. Should what? I asked. Apologize? Admit you were wrong? Or maybe tell Stephen the truth you both know? That without my money, that magazine wedding you planned is not going to happen. That you are going to have to settle for something more modest, more real, more in line with what you can actually pay. Courtney's face hardened. There it was, the true face behind the sweet girl mask. You are a bitter man, she said with poison in every word. A bitter old man who cannot stand the idea of his son being happy. Courtney, Stephen warned, but she could not stop now. I always knew you were like this. Stephen warned me. He told me you were controlling, that you used your money to manipulate everyone. And he was right. Is that what he told you? I asked, looking at my son. That I am the manipulator? Stephen did not respond. He just looked at the ground. Very well, I said. I have heard enough. You can leave. We are not finished, Courtney screamed. Yes, I replied calmly. Yes, we are finished. And next time you come to my house, you better bring a real apology. Not fake tears, not manipulation. A real apology. For Pamela, not for me. For her. Never, Courtney said. I will never apologize to that. I did not let her finish. I closed the door in their faces. I heard shouting on the other side. I heard Courtney cursing. I heard Stephen trying to calm her down. I heard how they finally left, with the truck starting so fast the tires screeched on the pavement. Pamela was on the stairs. She had heard everything. That girl hates you, she said. That girl hates that she can no longer use my money, I corrected. There is a difference. Do you think Stephen will leave her? No, I replied. Stephen is weak. He always has been. Ellen made him that way. She raised him to be a victim, to blame others for his problems, to believe the world owes him something. He is your son, Pamela said softly. I know. And that is why this hurts me more than you can imagine. But sometimes love is not giving everything they ask for. Sometimes love is saying no. It is setting boundaries. It is teaching consequences. I went up the stairs and hugged her. Do you know what is the saddest thing? I whispered. That I had to reach 63 years old to learn it. Sunday was quieter, fewer calls, fewer messages. It was as if Stephen and Courtney had finally understood I was not going to change my mind. But then, at 3 in the afternoon, a different message arrived. It was from Ellen. We need to talk, in person, for Stephen's sake. I had not spoken directly to Ellen in almost 2 years. Our communications were limited to brief messages about logistical matters. Never anything personal. Never anything deep. I showed the message to Pamela. You do not have to go, she said. You owe her nothing. I know. But I want to hear what she has to say. I want to see how far she is willing to go. Do you want me to go with you? No. This is something I have to do alone. I replied to Ellen. Starbucks on Michigan Avenue, 5 p.m. Her response was immediate. I will be there. At 10 to 5, I was sitting at a table in the back. With an Americano I had no intention of drinking. Ellen arrived punctual. She was still beautiful. Time had been kind to her. Hair perfectly done. Makeup flawless. Designer clothes. All paid for, of course, with the alimony I gave her. She sat in front of me without greeting. Edward, she said, as if my name were an accusation. Ellen. What are you doing? I am drinking coffee. You? Do not play with me, she snapped. You know perfectly well what I am talking about. Stephen is destroyed. You canceled everything. The wedding, the money, everything. Correct your information, I said. I did not cancel the wedding. I canceled my financial participation in the wedding. There is a difference. Why? Why would you do something like that? Do I really have to explain it to you? Yes, she almost shouted. Then she lowered her voice, seeing people turn around. Yes, explain it to me. Because from my perspective, you are punishing our son for expressing his feelings. Expressing his feelings? I laughed. Is that what you call it? Because I call it disrespect. I call it humiliation. I call it years of treating Pamela like trash, while I pretended nothing was happening. Ellen leaned back in her chair, crossing her arms. Ah, I see. This is about her. This is about me, I corrected. About my dignity. About the boundaries I should have set decades ago. Stephen is not to blame that your marriage with that woman is complicated. My marriage is not complicated. Stephen made it complicated, and you helped him. Me? You, I confirmed. From the day we divorced. You put poison in his head. You told him Pamela had taken me away from him. That everything was her fault. And he believed you because he was a child, and children believe their mothers. Ellen denied nothing. She just looked at me with those eyes I once loved. and now barely recognized. "I did what I had to do to protect him," she finally said. "Protect him? From what? From having a stepmother who loved him? From having a father who tried to give him a stable family? From forgetting about me?" Ellen whispered. "From replacing me with her." There it was, the truth. After all these years, finally the truth. "It was never about Stephen," I said slowly. "It was about you, about your ego, about your need to be the only one, the victim, the sacrificed mother. You have no right to judge me. You are right. I do not. But I have the right to protect my wife, and I have the right to teach my son that actions have consequences." Ellen leaned forward. Her voice became softer, more manipulative. "Edward, please, think about Stephen. Think about what this is doing to him. He already paid the deposit for the venue. He already sent the invitations. He is going to look like an idiot in front of everyone. He should have thought about that before disinviting Pamela. It was Courtney's idea." And he agreed. "Do not come to me saying he is a victim. Stephen is 32 years old. He is an adult. He can make his own decisions, and he can live with the consequences. And what if I told you he is willing to apologize? I do not believe it. Edward, I do not believe it because they already came here, Stephen and Courtney, and I saw no real apology. I saw manipulation. I saw fake tears. I saw a 32-year-old child trying to get what he wants with tantrums." Ellen closed her eyes. When she opened them, there were tears there. Real tears this time. "What do you want me to do?" she asked. "What do you want me to tell him? I want you to tell him the truth, that for 30 years you raised him to hate Pamela for no reason, that you taught him I was the enemy when the only thing I did was work to give him a better life, that you turned him into a man who believes he deserves everything without giving anything in return. I cannot do that, I know, because that would mean admitting you were wrong, and you never admit your mistakes." I stood up. "This conversation is over. Edward, wait." "No," I said. "I waited enough. 30 years I waited. I waited for Stephen to mature. I waited for him to see me as something more than a check. I waited for him to treat Pamela with a minimum of decency. And in all that time, do you know what I got? Nothing. Absolutely nothing. He is your son," Ellen said with a broken voice, "and maybe that is why I should have done this a long time ago. Because children need boundaries. They need to learn that respect is not optional. They need to understand that love does not mean being a doormat." I left $20 on the table for the coffee and left. Ellen stayed there sitting, crying in silence while I walked out of Starbucks and got into my car. I drove back home in silence. I did not turn on the radio. I made no calls. I just drove, processing the conversation. Part of me felt pity for Ellen. Part of me understood that she was also a victim of her own fears and insecurities. But that changed nothing. When I arrived home, Pamela was on the terrace, reading. She looked up when she saw me arrive. "How was it?" "Exactly as I expected," I replied, sitting beside her. "Ellen is still Ellen. Stephen is still Stephen, and I am still the villain in their story." Pamela put her book aside and took my hand. "Do you regret it?" "No," I replied without hesitation. "For the first time in 30 years, I regret nothing." That night, I slept better than I had in months. I did not dream. I did not wake up in the middle of the night. I just slept, a deep and guilt-free sleep, because there was something liberating in finally saying no, in finally setting boundaries, in finally choosing myself and the person who had really been loyal to me all these years. Monday was going to be interesting. Very interesting. But I was ready. Finally, I was ready. Monday dawned with a gray sky, low clouds, threat of rain, as if the weather knew what was coming. I got up early. I showered. I put on my best suit, the navy blue Armani, silver cufflinks, Italian shoes freshly polished. If I was going to do this, I was going to do it right. Pamela came down when I was finishing my coffee. She had also dressed up more than usual. Elegant dress, discreet makeup. She knew what this day meant. "Are you sure?" she asked for the umpteenth time. "Completely. Stephen is going to hate you. He already hates me. Only now he is going to have a real reason." At 8:30, my driver picked me up. I arrived at the office at 8:45. The glass and steel building where I had built my empire. 15 floors of offices, warehouses, boardrooms, my name in big letters at the entrance. Miller, Import-Export. I went straight up to the 15th floor. My office, my assistant, Lucy, a 50-year-old woman who had been with me for 20 years, greeted me with her usual professionalism. "Good morning, Mr. Miller. Henry is already waiting for you in his office." "Thank you, Lucy." "Did Stephen arrive?" "He arrived 10 minutes ago. He is in his office." "Perfect. Tell him to come see me in half an hour." "Right away, sir." I entered my office. Henry was reviewing documents at my desk. He stood up when he saw me. "Good morning, Edward. Ready for this?" More ready than ever. We spent the next 20 minutes reviewing the documents. Everything was in order. Every point, every clause. It was perfect. At 9:30, Lucy knocked on the door. "Stephen is here. Let him in." My son entered the office with that expression I had seen all his life, that mixture of arrogance and false security. He was wearing jeans and a casual shirt. He had not even bothered to dress appropriately for the office, because for him, this was never a real job. It was just a place where he passed time and collected a check. "Dad," he said, completely ignoring Henry. "Can we talk alone?" "No, Henry stays." "Sit down." Stephen hesitated. Then he sat in the chair in front of my desk. He looked like a student in the principal's office. "Look," he started, "I know things got out of control this weekend. I know we all said things we should not have. But we can fix it. Courtney is willing to apologize to Pamela. We can have a dinner. We can." "Stephen," I interrupted him, "I did not call you to talk about the wedding." He blinked, confused. "Then?" "I called you to talk about your work. Or more specifically, about your lack of work." "What?" I passed him a folder Henry had prepared. Stephen opened it with trembling hands. "What is this?" "It is an evaluation of your performance over the last 2 years, elaborated by HR, by your direct subordinates, and by me." I watched as he read. I watched as his face became paler and paler. "The numbers are clear," I continued. "Error rate in projects, 42%. Missed meetings, 35%. Complaints from personnel under your supervision, 18 in the last year alone. Projects completed successfully, 6 out of 22. But late arrivals, 53 in 6 months. Days taken for sickness that we later discovered you spent in Cabo with Courtney, 8. Shall I go on?" Stephen closed the folder abruptly. "You cannot do this." "Do what?" "Evaluate my employees?" "It is what I do with everyone. The difference is that with you I was too soft. I gave you opportunities I would not give anyone else. I forgave errors that would have cost anyone else their job. I am your son. Exactly. You are my son. And that is why I gave you everything. I gave you a position you did not earn. I gave you a salary you did not deserve. I gave you opportunities you wasted, and during all that time, not once did you say thank you." Henry intervened with his calm lawyer voice. "Stephen, effectively your father is right. According to labor laws, an employee can be removed from his position if his performance does not meet company standards, and these documents clearly demonstrate that you have not done so." "Are you firing me?" Stephen asked, his voice rising in pitch. "No," I replied. "I am demoting you. Starting today, you are no longer director of operations. You will start in a position of warehouse supervisor, level 3, with the corresponding salary, $4,000 a month." The silence that followed was absolute. Stephen looked at me as if I had grown a second head. "4,000, he whispered. "I make 25,000. Not any more. This is insane. You cannot do this to me. I can and I am doing it. If you want to keep your job, you accept the new conditions. If not, you can always resign and look for employment elsewhere. Let us see which company is willing to pay you $25,000 a month with your track record." Stephen stood up so fast the chair almost fell over. "This is because of Pamela. This is because I did not invite her to the wedding. This is for 30 years of disrespecting me," I said, standing up too. 30 years of treating me like your personal bank. 30 years of believing you deserve everything without giving anything. And yes, it is also because of Pamela, because she is my wife, and allowing you to treat her like trash is a lack of respect towards me. I knew this would happen. Mom was right. You always chose that woman over me. I never had to choose, I replied. You made that decision for me. Every time you ignored her, every time you insulted her, every time you asked me for money while looking at her with contempt, you chose. I am just setting the boundaries I should have set from the beginning. Stephen was breathing heavily. I could see tears of rage in his eyes. You will regret this. I doubt it. But if I regret it, it will be my problem, not yours. I am going to sue. Henry smiled. That smile that meant he had all the aces in his hand. You can try, Stephen, but I assure you, you are not going to win. We have all the documentation. We have witnesses. We have evaluations. And above all, we have the law on our side. Your father is the owner of this company. He can restructure however he wants. And you signed a contract when you entered that specifically says you accept any change in your position according to company needs. Stephen looked at both of us. Defeated, humiliated, furious. I hate you, he finally said. Both of you. I know, I replied. Now you can go. If you decide to accept the new position, report tomorrow at 7 in the morning at warehouse number 2. Your new supervisor will explain your responsibilities. Stephen turned around and left, slamming the door so hard the pictures on the wall shook. Henry and I remained in silence for a moment. That was intense, he finally said. That was necessary, I corrected. I sat in my chair. My hands were trembling slightly. Not from fear, not from doubt, from pure adrenaline. Do you think he will accept the new position? Henry asked. No, I replied. Stephen is too proud. He is going to resign. He is going to run to Ellen and Courtney. They are going to cry together. They are going to say, I am a monster. And maybe they are right. They are not, you think? I think you just did what any father should have done years ago. You taught him the world does not revolve around him. That money does not grow on trees. That respect is earned. I leaned back in my chair, looking out the window. The city stretched out under the gray sky. Millions of people, millions of stories, millions of families with their own dramas. And for the first time in a long time, I felt at peace, because I had done the right thing. Finally, I had done the right thing, even if it cost me my son, even if it cost me the little family I had left. I had chosen my dignity, and the dignity of the woman who had loved me unconditionally for 22 years. And that, at the end of the day, was the only thing that really mattered. Stephen resigned 2 hours later. He did not come in person. He did not have the courage. He simply sent an email to Human Resources, copying me. 3 dry lines full of rage. By means of the present, I inform my immediate resignation from Miller Import-Export. I will not work under abusive and irrational conditions. I expect my full settlement in the next few days. Lucy brought me the printed email. I read it without emotion. What do you want me to answer, Mr. Miller? Tell Human Resources to process his resignation. Give him his settlement as the law marks. Not $1 more. Not $1 less. Are you sure? According to his contract, he has the right to. According to his contract, he has the right to exactly what the labor law says. Calculate his days worked, his proportional bonus, his untaken vacations. Everything legal. Everything fair. Nothing more. Lucy nodded and withdrew. I stayed alone in my office, looking at that email. 3 lines. 32 years of life summarized in 3 lines. There was no thanks for everything. There was no, I am sorry we came to this. Just rage. Just wounded pride. The phone on my desk rang. It was reception. Mr. Miller, there is a Mrs. Ellen Miller here. She says she needs to speak with you urgently. Of course. Ellen. Stephen had run directly to his mother. Tell her I am not available. She says she will not leave until you receive her. I sighed. Ellen had always been dramatic, and apparently, 30 years later, she still was. It is okay. Let her up. 5 minutes later, Ellen burst into my office. And I mean burst because that is what happened. She threw the door open. She did not even knock. Lucy came behind her trying to apologize. It is okay, Lucy, I said. Close the door. Ellen stood in front of my desk. Her hair was down, messy, red eyes, makeup running. She looked 10 years older than the day before. What did you do to him? She asked with a trembling voice. What the hell did you do to our son? I treated him like any incompetent employee, I replied calmly. I offered him a position according to his skills. He decided to resign. You took away his job. You humiliated him. I offered him a different job. He chose his pride over his livelihood. That was his decision. Ellen let herself fall into the chair. She covered her face with her hands. Her shoulders shook. I cannot believe you have gone this far, she whispered. I knew you were cold. I knew you were hard. But I never thought you would be capable of destroying your own son. I did not destroy him. I taught him a lesson. If that destroys him, then he never had solid foundations to begin with. He was your son, your only son, and you were my wife. And look how we ended up. Life is not always fair, Ellen. Sometimes relationships break. Sometimes people disappoint each other. Ellen looked up. Her eyes were full of pure hate. She did this to you. That woman poisoned you against your own family. Pamela did not have to do anything. You handled it yourselves. 30 years, Ellen. 30 years allowing Stephen to treat her like trash. 30 years swallowing my dignity. 30 years being the family bank. And when finally I say, enough, I am the villain? Yes, because a father does not abandon his son. I did not abandon him, I said, standing up. He abandoned me. Years ago, when he decided it was only worth talking to me when he needed money. When he decided my wife did not deserve respect. When he decided I was only useful for signing checks. Are you crazy? Maybe, or maybe finally I am sane. Ellen stood up. She wiped her tears with rage. This is not going to stay like this. We are going to fight. Stephen has rights. Stephen has exactly what the law gives him. And neither you nor he can do anything about it. I have the best lawyers in Chicago. I have all the documentation. I have everything in order. You are a monster. I am a man who finally set boundaries. If that makes me a monster, then so be it. Ellen walked towards the door. She stopped before leaving. You are going to die alone, she said without turning. With all your money, with all your company. But completely alone. No, I replied. I am going to die with the person who has been loyal to me all these years. That is the difference between you and me, Ellen. I know how to recognize real value when I have it. She left without saying anything else. I heard her heels echoing in the hallway. I heard how she left, and I felt liberated. I called Pamela. How are you? She asked immediately. Fine. Surprisingly fine. Stephen? He resigned. Ellen came to make a scene. Everything went exactly as expected. There was a silence on the other side. Do you regret it? No. Do you? Never, she replied with a firm voice. Edward, I have been waiting 22 years for this moment. 22 years swallowing contempt. 22 years being the villain in a story I did not write. I regret nothing. I love you, I said. I love you too. Now come home. We are going to celebrate. Celebrate? Celebrate your freedom. Our freedom. I hung up with a smile on my face. Pamela was right. This was a liberation, a purge, a new beginning. That night I prepared dinner myself, something I had not done in years. Carbonara pasta. She was surprised. What is all this? A reminder of why I took the decisions I took, I replied. A reminder that what is important is not blood. It is loyalty. It is real love. It is this. We dined slowly. We talked about everything except Stephen. We talked about trips we wanted to take, about places we wanted to see, about things we had always postponed because I was busy with the business or because we did not want to cause problems in the family. Do you know what I want to do? Pamela said, with eyes shining from the wine. I want to go to Italy. I want to spend a month in Tuscany, rent a villa, drink wine, watch the sunset, then let us go. Really? Completely serious. I no longer have to worry about keeping the family peace. I no longer have to be available for Stephen's emergencies. I no longer have to pretend. We can do whatever we want. Pamela laughed. It was a light laugh, youthful, a laugh I had not heard in years. 63 years old, and finally you are going to live. 63 years old, and finally I am going to live well, I corrected. That night we slept hugging, like we had not done in a long time. And for the first time in decades, I did not dream about business or family problems. I just slept Deep, calm, free. The following days were an emotional roller coaster. On Tuesday, I received an email from the wedding organizers. Courtney and Stephen had canceled everything. The venue, the flowers, the DJ, everything. They lost the deposits. Almost $20,000 went down the drain. On Wednesday, a lawsuit arrived. Ellen and Stephen were suing me for wrongful termination and family abuse of power. I called Henry. He laughed. It is ridiculous. It is not going to prosper, but it is going to give us work for a few months. How much is it going to cost? Maybe $10,000 in legal fees, maybe less. But Edward, do not worry. This is just theater. They are angry. They are hurt. They are trying to recover some control. And the wedding? What about the wedding? Do you think they will still get married? Henry paused. Honestly, I do not know. Depends on how in love Courtney is with the man or the money. And I have my suspicions about which. He was right. On Thursday night, Stephen called me. It was the first time we spoke since Monday. I answered. Dad! His voice sounded broken. Tired. I need to talk to you. Speak. Courtney broke up with me. I said nothing. I just waited. She said if I could not provide the lifestyle she expected, then it made no sense to continue. She said she deserves someone who values her, someone who can give her what she needs. I am sorry, I said. And it was true. I was not happy about his pain. I was just happy that he finally saw reality. You were right, he whispered. About her, about everything. Where are you? In the apartment. Alone. Everything went to hell, Dad. My job, my wedding, my relationship, everything. I could hear the tears in his voice. Part of me wanted to run to him, hug him, tell him everything would be fine. But another stronger part knew that would be a mistake. Stephen, do you know why all this happened? Because you. No, I interrupted him. It is not because I did something. It is because you never learned to value what you had. Because you grew up believing the world owed you something. Because you confused generosity with obligation. I do not want a sermon now. Then you did not call me at the right moment, because that is exactly what you need to hear. There was a long silence. Do you hate me? He asked finally. No, I have never hated you, but I am also not going to keep being your lifeguard. You are 32 years old. It is time you learned to swim alone. I do not know how. Then learn. Get a job, a real one, where you have to arrive early and work hard, where nobody gives you privileges for your last name. And maybe, after a few years, when you have matured, we can have a real conversation. And Pamela? What about Pamela? Do I have to apologize to her? That is not the point. The point is not forcing you to pretend. The point is that you understand why what you did was wrong. If someday you reach that understanding by yourself, then yes, an apology would be appropriate. But not because I demand it. Because you really feel it. Stephen said nothing for a long while. Dad? Yes? Do you think someday we can fix this? I do not know, son. Honestly, I do not know. That depends completely on you. I hung up before he could answer. Pamela was at the study door. She had heard everything. Did you do the right thing? She asked. I did the only thing I could do. Does it hurt? Like you have no idea. But I also know that if I rescue him now, if I run to save him, he is never going to learn. He is never going to change. And in 5 years we will be exactly in the same place. Pamela came closer and hugged me. You are a good man, Edward Miller. A good man doing hard things. The following weeks were strange. The company worked perfectly without Stephen. In fact, it worked better. I hired a new director of operations, someone with real experience, someone who knew what they were doing. The numbers improved, efficiency increased, everything flowed. Ellen and Stephen's lawsuit was dismissed at the first hearing. The judge said exactly what Henry had predicted. A businessman has the right to restructure his company. A son does not have an automatic right to an executive position. Ellen sent me a message after that. Just one. I hope you are happy. You destroyed your family. I did not respond, because there was nothing to say. In her mind, I was the villain, and nothing I said would change that. Stephen got a job at a logistics company. A mid-level position. He was making $6,000 a month. a fraction of what he made with me. But it was an honest salary, a salary he was earning. We did not speak. Occasionally news reached me through mutual acquaintances, that he was living in a smaller apartment, that he was working long hours, that he looked tired. Part of me wanted to call him, ask him how he was, offer him help, but I knew that would be a mistake. Stephen needed this. He needed to hit rock bottom. He needed to understand what it meant to really work. Pamela and I booked our trip to Italy, a full month in Tuscany. We were leaving in 3 weeks. Are you excited? She asked one night while we planned the itinerary. More than I have been in years, I replied. You know, I spent my whole life building this empire, working 16 hours a day, sacrificing time, sacrificing moments. And for what? So my son would see me as an ATM? Not anymore. What are you going to do with the company? I want to start delegating more. I want to travel with you. I want to enjoy what I built instead of just keep building. Pamela smiled. 63 years and finally you have wisdom. 63 years and finally I have clarity. 2 days before our trip to Italy, I received an unexpected call. It was from a number I did not recognize. I hesitated before answering, but something told me to do it. Hello? Mr. Miller, my name is Richard Fountain. I am Stephen's direct boss at National Logistics. My heart accelerated. Did something happen? No, nothing bad. In fact, I was calling to tell you something I think you would like to know. Go ahead. Your son has been one of the best employees we have had in years. He arrives early. He stays late. He never complains. He solves problems. He helps his colleagues. 2 weeks ago, he avoided an error that would have cost us millions. Honestly, Mr. Miller, I do not know what happened between you two, but I want you to know that your son is an exceptional man. I was speechless. Mr. Miller? Yes, I am here. Thank you for calling. Thank you for telling me that. I thought it was important for you to know. Sometimes parents need to hear these things, that their children are okay, that they are growing. I hung up with tears in my eyes. Pamela was there, looking at me with worry. What happened? I told her. She also cried. Are you going to call him? She asked. No, I replied. Not yet. This is good. It means he is growing, that he is learning. But if I run now, if I rescue him now, I could ruin all that progress. He needs to finish this path by himself, and if he never seeks you out, then at least I will know I gave him the tools to be a good man, even if he is not a good son to me. That night I wrote something I did not send him. I just saved it on my phone. Words for Stephen. For someday. Maybe. Son, I am proud of the man you are becoming. I know the road was hard. I know I hurt you. But I also know it was necessary, because true love is not giving everything. It is teaching. It is setting boundaries. It is letting go. When you are ready, I will be here. Not with money, not with solutions, just with time, with conversation, with mutual respect. That is the only thing I ever wanted. Your dad. I did not send it, because I knew it was not the time yet. The night before our trip, Pamela and I went up to the terrace, the same place where everything had started weeks ago. The same place where Stephen had told me Pamela was not invited to his wedding. It seemed like a lifetime had passed. Do you know what is the strangest thing? I said, watching the illuminated city. That I feel lighter. As if I had been carrying a backpack full of stones for 30 years and finally took it off. They were stones of guilt, Pamela said. Guilt for the divorce. Guilt for not being the perfect father. Guilt for rebuilding your life with me. But Edward, you had nothing to feel guilty about. I know. Now I know. But it took me 63 years to learn it. Pamela leaned on my shoulder. What do you think Stephen is doing now? I hope he is learning. I hope he is growing. I hope someday he understands why I had to do what I did. And if he never understands, then at least I can live with a clear conscience. Because I did the right thing, not the easy thing, the right thing. We stayed there in silence, watching how the city lights blinked like fallen stars. And I thought about everything that had happened. About the calls, the fights, the tears, the slammed doors, the lawsuits, the pain. But I also thought about the freedom, the recovered dignity, Pamela finally being valued, me finally putting myself first. Sometimes love means saying no, means setting boundaries, means letting the people you love fall so they learn to get up alone. And maybe that was the hardest lesson of all. That being a good father does not mean giving everything. It means knowing when to stop giving, when to stop rescuing, when to let life teach the lessons you could not. "Ready for Italy?" Pamela asked. "More ready than ever," I replied, and I meant it seriously. Because for the first time in decades I was not running from something, I was running towards something, towards a life I really wanted to live, with the person who really valued me. The rest of the world could judge me, Ellen could hate me, Stephen could resent me, but I knew the truth. I had done what any man with dignity should do. I had chosen myself, and that, in the end, was the only thing that really mattered. Italy was a dream. 30 days in Tuscany, vineyards that stretched as far as the eye could see, medieval villages perched on hills, red wine that tasted like history, fresh handmade pasta, sunsets that painted the sky gold and orange. Pamela and I walked through lavender fields, holding hands like teenagers. We had breakfast on terraces overlooking infinite valleys. We spent afternoons reading under ancient olive trees. We did not talk about business. We did not talk about Chicago. And we definitely did not talk about Stephen. It was as if we had left all that life behind, as if we were other people, lighter people, freer people. One night, in a small restaurant in Siena, Pamela took my hand across the table. "Thank you," she said. "Why?" "For choosing me. After 22 years of being invisible, finally you chose me. I should have done it decades ago, but you did it now, and that is what matters." We toasted with Chianti under a sky full of stars, and in that moment, looking into the eyes of the woman who had remained by my side no matter what, I knew I had made the right decision. We returned to Chicago at the end of October. The weather had changed. The air was cooler. Everything felt different. Or maybe I was different. There were 183 emails waiting for me. I reviewed them with Henry in my first week back. Nothing urgent. Nothing that could not be handled. The company continued working perfectly. And then, on a Tuesday afternoon, I received a message. It was from Stephen. "Dad, can we talk? Just you and me. No lawyers, no agendas. Just a conversation." I showed the message to Pamela. "What do you want to do?" she asked. "I want to hear him, but this time, on my terms," I replied. "Thursday at 4, in my office." His response was immediate. "I will be there, thank you." On Thursday, I arrived early at the office. I put on my best suit, not to intimidate, but because I wanted to feel strong, secure. At 4 o'clock sharp, Lucy knocked on my door. "Stephen Miller is here. Let him in." My son entered, and I almost did not recognize him. He had lost weight, shorter hair, deep dark circles, wearing a modest suit, not designer, shoes well polished but old, and something else, something in his eyes. There was no longer arrogance, no longer that air of superiority. There was humility. "Dad," he said, remaining standing in front of my desk. "Sit down." He sat. His hands trembled slightly. "Thank you for receiving me. What did you want to talk about?" Stephen took a deep breath. I saw how he struggled to find the words. "I want to apologize, not just for the wedding, for everything, for the last 30 years. I said nothing. I just waited. You are right. About everything. I was a terrible son, a terrible employee, a terrible person. I grew up believing I deserved everything without giving anything, that your money was mine by right, that I could treat you however I wanted and you would always be there." His voice broke. "I treated Pamela horribly. For 22 years. And she never did anything to me. Never. I just wanted to hurt someone because I was angry. Angry at Mom for the divorce. Angry at you for moving on. Angry at the world." Tears began to roll down his cheeks. "And when you took everything away from me, when you let me fall, the first thing I felt was hate. I hated you. I hated Pamela. I hated my life. But later, when I had to really work, when I had to earn every dollar, when nobody gave me privileges, something changed." "What changed?" I asked in a low voice. "I understood. I understood that you did not hurt me. You taught me. And it was the hardest lesson of my life, but also the most important." He wiped his tears with the back of his hand. I know I cannot erase 30 years in one conversation. I know I do not deserve your forgiveness, but I needed to tell you that I am sorry, that I understand why you did what you did, and that I am proud to be your son. Although it took me 32 years to realize it, silence filled the office. I could hear the ticking of the clock on the wall, the distant murmur of traffic outside, my own heart beating in my ears. Why now? I finally asked. Why come now with this? Because finally I am ready. Because finally I am the man I should have been years ago. And because I want you to meet that man. Not for you to give me anything. Not for you to give me back my job. Just so you know, your son finally grew up. I got up from my chair, went around the desk. Stephen stood up too, unsure. And then I did something I had not done in years. I hugged him. Stephen collapsed in my arms. He cried like I had not seen him cry since he was a child. And I cried too, for the lost years, for the pain caused, for the family that could have been, and was not. But I also cried of relief, because my son had returned. Not the spoiled child, not the arrogant man, but the real man who was always there waiting to emerge. I love you, son, I whispered. I have always loved you, even when it was hard, even when it seemed impossible. I love you too, Dad, and I am sorry for everything. We stayed like that for long minutes, father and son, reconnecting, healing. When we finally separated, Stephen wiped his face. There is something else, he said. What? I need to apologize to Pamela. In person. Do you think she will agree to see me? I smiled. There is only one way to know. That night, Stephen came home. Pamela was nervous. I saw her getting ready 3 times, changing her dress, touching up her makeup. What if it is a trap? She asked. What if he just wants something? Then we will know, but I think this time it is different. I saw it in his eyes. When Stephen arrived, he brought a bouquet of flowers, white roses, Pamela's favorites, although he had never bothered to find out before. Pamela opened the door. They stood looking at each other for an endless moment. Pamela, Stephen said with a trembling voice, I know I do not deserve even a minute of your time. I know that for 22 years I treated you as if you were invisible, as if you did not matter. And I want you to know that says everything about me and nothing about you. He extended the flowers. You were more of a mother to me than I allowed. You tried to love me when I did not want to be loved, and I repaid you with contempt. Forgive me, please. Pamela took the flowers with trembling hands. Tears ran freely down her face. Stephen, you do not have to say anything, he interrupted her. You do not have to forgive me. I just needed you to know that I am sorry. For real. Pamela left the flowers on the table, and then, to my surprise, she hugged Stephen. I forgive you, she whispered. I forgive you because that is what people who love do. And I loved you from the first day, even though you never let me show it. I saw my son cry in the arms of the woman he had rejected for more than 2 decades. I saw Pamela finally receive the recognition she always deserved. And I knew everything had been worth it. We had dinner together that night, the 3 of us. For the first time in history, we dined like a real family. Not forced, not tense, real. Stephen told us about his job, about the challenges, about how every day he learned something new. Pamela told him about Italy. I just listened, with a full heart. Before leaving, Stephen took me aside. Dad, I want you to know something. I did not come here expecting you to give me back my job at the company. I did not come expecting money. I came because I needed to close this chapter correctly. I know, son. Really, really. And that is what tells me you have finally changed. We said goodbye at the door, this time with a long hug, sincere. When he left, Pamela and I stayed on the terrace, the same place where everything had started months ago. Do you think it is real? She asked. The change? Only time will tell. But today, in this moment, I think so. I think he finally found his way. And you two? Father and son? We are healing. It is not going to happen overnight, but it is a beginning. Pamela smiled and leaned on me. You did the right thing, Edward. It was painful. It was horrible. But the right thing is rarely easy. 6 months later, Stephen continued working at National Logistics. He was promoted twice. Now he was regional manager. He had earned every promotion with hard work and dedication. We saw each other every 2 weeks for dinner, sometimes in restaurants, sometimes at home, always with Pamela, always with respect. The relationship was not perfect, but it was real. And that was more than it had been in 30 years. Ellen never apologized. She never changed her version of the story where I was the villain. But I did not care anymore. I had made peace with the fact that some people prefer their narratives to the truth. My company continued to grow. I hired talented young people. I started delegating more. Pamela and I traveled. Paris, Japan, Greece, all the places we had dreamed of. And one afternoon, while drinking coffee on my terrace, I received a message from Stephen. "Dad, I want to introduce you to someone. Her name is Danielle. She is an elementary school teacher. I met her volunteering. She is different from Courtney. She is real. And I would like you to meet her. You and Pamela," I replied. "We would love to. Saturday? Perfect. And Dad, thank you for not giving up on me, for teaching me what really matters." I put the phone away and looked at the city stretching under the afternoon sky. I thought about the whole road traveled, the difficult decisions, the burned bridges, the learned lessons. Sometimes, true love means letting go. It means letting the people you love face the consequences of their actions. It means setting boundaries, even if it hurts. It means choosing your dignity over maintaining the peace. And when finally you have the courage to do it, something magical happens. The people who really love you find their way back, not for money, not out of obligation, but out of respect, out of real love, out of the family we decide to be, not just the one we got by blood. My name is Edward Miller. I am 63 years old, and finally I learned that being a good father is not giving everything. It is knowing when to say no. It is teaching. It is setting boundaries. It is loving enough to let fall. And that, my friends, is the most valuable lesson I can share. Because in the end, family is not about blood. It is about respect, about loyalty, about being there when it really matters. And sometimes, finding that means losing everything first. If my story touched your heart, if you have ever felt you give more than you receive, if you have allowed them to disrespect you to maintain the peace, I want you to know something. It is never too late to set boundaries. It is never too late to choose yourself. It is never too late to demand the respect you deserve. Thank you for listening to the story of an old man who finally learned to live. And remember, true love sometimes means saying no.